Good morning, everyone. This is Sarah, and welcome to our live video chat. Good morning. I've got Rosie with me today. Come here, sweetie pie. Can you say hello? She's such a sweetie. Well, she's modeling our new little dog Cal. I called it Dress Up Your Dog Cal because I did it on Saturday and it actually went out on Sunday because Saturday was Dress Up Your Dog Day. Good morning, Michelle. I see you just popped in. Good morning, Susie. I see you just popped in. Well, I'm going to let Rosie go lay down. There you go, sweetie. Go get on your blanket. Well, good morning. I'm so glad you're here, and I'll be happy when the rest of you all pop in because I have a fun show today. Is this a show? I have a fun video. Good morning, Dana and Joan. I see you popped in. Well, have you got your coffee? I've got a really cool coffee cup today. My friend Tina gave me this last year for Christmas, and it's so cool because it has a spoon in the handle. You can put your cream and sugar or whatever you want in it, and then you don't lose your spoon. Is that awesome? Clink in. Well, I wanted to, first of all, talk to you a little bit about Facebook, and they're making a whole bunch of changes. And one of the things that they're doing is they're going to make it so that you see Facebook pages less than Facebook personal pages. And so if you go to my personal page, or not my personal page, if you go to Facebook here on Posh Pooch Designs, which is my page, you'll notice that I posted a group, and I have a group. It's called PPD Puppy Love Crochet. And if you just click on that group and go join it, it is a closed group because we had some issues with some spammers about a year ago posting inappropriate things, and we don't want that because it's all about crochet, right? Yarn, crochet hooks. Anyway, I'm really suggesting that you join that group, because everything that I post on my regular Facebook page, the new patterns, oh, come on, honey, she's wanting to sit with me. Come on. Anyway, the new patterns, the new videos, and all the new things that we do, I also post in that group. And that way you won't miss out on any of the new patterns or new videos. There she is. Wait, there's Rosie. There's Maximo. They love to sit behind me. But anyway, back to the subject. That way, if you join that group, PPD, Puppy Love Crochet Group, you won't miss out on any of the new videos or any of the new patterns or any of the crochet alongs or any of the fun things that we do. And I don't want you to miss out because crocheting is cool and it's fun, and it's also fun to do together. And that's why I'm doing the videos. That's why I'm doing the group. So if you go to the top of the page, I pinned it up there. The group is there. Just click on it. And it'll ask, and I'll have to let you in, like I said, to join, because I did make it a closed group because of the issue with the spammers. So anyway, I just wanted you to know that. I don't like it when you miss out. Another thing that you can do is if you go to my blog, Posh Pooch Designs on Blogspot, it's by Google, you can follow the blog by just putting your email address. It's over on the right side of the blog. I don't see your email addresses. I don't have anything to do with it. All it is you put your email address in there, and then every time I post a new blog, you'll get it like a newsletter. You'll get the blog sent straight to that, whatever email address you put in there. I don't add anybody and I don't subtract anybody. Only you can do that. But that's another way that you can keep from missing out on new videos and new blogs. And of course, another way is to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way, every time I post a new video, you'll get notified of that as well. I don't like the new changes on Facebook, and I'm really sad that they're doing that because, in my opinion, they're really going to be hurting a lot of us small business people who just try to make a little extra money to make ends meet. Mine is kind of like, I need to earn a little money because I need to feed the yarn habit. And speaking of yarn, I see some more of you popped in. Hello, Shannon, Crystal, and let's see. Did I miss anybody? Aurora. Oh, I just love that name. Anyway, Make sure that you clink in to say hello. All righty, let me get a little sip of coffee here. All right, so let's talk about what we are going to talk about today, our subject, and that is you're given some yarn. It doesn't have a label. How do we figure out what kind of yarn that it is, right? I mean, a lot of times you can look at it, and just by looking at it, you can figure it out. Let me go down to my top cam here real quick. I've got some yarns here, and I think these yarns are pretty simple to figure out. This is Red Heart Super Saver. You can tell by the feel of it, the look of it. This is Red Heart Stripes. You can kind of tell. This one, can you guess this one? Karen Simply Soft. You can tell because it has the sheen, and the yarn's just a wee bit thinner. These are things as you start crocheting and working with yarn that you get used to seeing. This one's a little bit fuzzy, and this is a Jiffy yarn. And it's a number 5 instead of a number 4. You can see it's a little bit thicker. So, you know, those are things that as you work with yarn and you get used to being around yarn, you're like, oh, I can identify that pretty good. But sometimes you're given some yarn, or you bought like maybe a basket at a garage sale or a rummage sale, antique sale. You know, you can get yarn at Goodwill and other places secondhand, and it's brand new, wonderful yarn, but you don't know what kind it is. So I've got some things that you can do. The first thing, like I said, is to look and compare to your other yarns that you have in your stash. In other words, like those cakes back there, I can pretty much tell what cake it's from. But what kind of fiber content? How do we figure that out? Well, I've got some things that you can kind of do that might help you. Okay, so the first thing you can do is cut off a piece of that yarn and put it in some really, really hot water. Don't burn yourself, but you know, just like a good sized piece. Put it in the hot water and kind of swirl it around. Leave it sit for a couple seconds. And this is going to sound silly, but then smell it. If it smells like an old wet dog that came in from the rain, it's probably an animal fiber, like a wool, lamb's wool, sheep's wool, alpaca. If it smells like an old wet dog that came in from the rain, it's probably an animal fiber. If that fiber soaked up all the water, not all of it, but a lot of the water, and the fibers have swelled up, it's probably a cotton, because that's what cotton does. It soaks up the water. If there was probably no reaction whatsoever, and the yarn's just dampish and wet, but it's not like, it didn't soak up the fiber, it didn't change in any way, then it's probably acrylic. And that's one way that you can tell, by getting it all wet. And I know it sounds silly to smell it, but the first thing I think of when I have had wet wool is my wet dogs. So that's something that you can do. Another thing that you can do is, when it's still a little bit damp, take that yarn and kind of rub it, you know, like this, and feel it and see how it reacts. If it starts to felt up and get really, really fuzzy, it's also probably an animal fiber. If it doesn't really have any change whatsoever, it may get a little bit fuzzy and uncurl a little, but no change, it's probably acrylic. And with the cotton, we already know, can identify that pretty well because it soaks up the water, and it also starts, when you roll it in your fingers, it starts to unroll. It starts to unweave or whatever when the fibers come apart of the cotton, and that's a clue. Most people can look at cotton and tell the difference, but they're making cotton so much softer now, and it's spun so much softer now, that it's a little bit harder to identify. And so if you get something new and you don't know what it is, that's a good way to figure it out. Okay, then another thing that you can do is, after, don't use that same piece, get a new piece of yarn, soak it in hot water again, and lay it across your ironing board. Put your iron on high. I know that sounds weird, but do it. Put your iron on high and put it on that fiber. If it melts, it's acrylic, because acrylic is basically spun plastic. And so if it melts and starts to stink like burnt plastic, it's acrylic. If there's no change other than it just warms up a little bit, it's probably cotton. But again, hey now, again, if that fiber, Mommy's talking, guys. Calm down. I might be expecting some yarn. It might be UPS. Just all FYI. Anyway, if the fiber smells again like a hot wet dog, it's an animal fiber, like a wool, lamb's wool, sheep's wool, alpaca. And you know, one thing that can be a little tricky when identifying yarns is when they put the different types of fiber together. For instance, some of the Karen cakes are what, 80% acrylic and 20% wool. And a lot of times they'll do that because the acrylic makes it a little bit softer and the wool makes it a little bit warmer, and then they work together. And a lot of times when you get an alpaca, it's a blend. If you get Angora or some of the really expensive yarns, they're a blend, and sometimes they can be a blend, not always. And so you'll have some different fibers working in there. And so another thing that you can do is I would make a swatch, like crochet, you know, a 10 by 10 stitch swatch, you know, just a little tiny one. Throw it in the laundry next time you do your towels. When you take it out of the washing machine, look at it. If it's fuzzied up, it's got some wool in it or some animal fiber. If there's no change, it's probably acrylic. If it's a little bit puffier, then it's probably got some cotton in it. Because one neat thing about cotton is after you've washed it a couple times, it's way more absorbent. It works way better for scrubbing things and scrubbing your face. The first couple times cotton goes through the wash, it's okay. I mean, it still works great. But after it's been through a couple of times, cotton it's like it gets better and better for every wash. If there's no change in that little swatch, then it's probably acrylic. Throw them in the dryer next. Put them in there with your load of towels or socks or something, and then look at it again. And it kind of reinforces what happened is it went through the washer, went through the dryer, and if it's got wool in it, your swatch will be a lot smaller because it felt it up. Got smaller and shrunk. Acrylic doesn't shrink. You probably won't see any other change in that. Cotton, you'll probably again see it a little more puffier and more absorbent, and that's one of the great things about cotton. That's why it's great for towels and hot pads and things like that, because the more you wash it, the puffier it gets. Acrylic doesn't have a lot of change when you wash it. One thing I do though, when I wash anything that I have crocheted, I add just a teeny tiny bit of white distilled vinegar. And a lot of people will put fabric softener in there, and that's totally fine. But there's something about the white distilled vinegar that just cleans it really good. It gets any smells out, like the cotton. It tries to absorb the smell as well as the liquids and things. And so you want to use some of that distilled water, or I mean not distilled water, distilled white vinegar, and it will get those smells out. And like I said, you'll notice that if it's wool, it's shrunk down. Acrylic didn't have any change, and cotton probably puffed up a little bit. And so those are some things that you can do to kind of help find out what kind of fiber, that your yarn is composed of. Another thing that you can do, it's called WPI, which is wraps per inch. And we talked about this a few, probably 3 or 4 months ago on one of our live videos, and I'll put that link underneath this video as well so you can find it, and on YouTube I'll link it up there so it's you know, up in the corner. But it's basically just wrapping your yarn around a ruler and measuring how many wraps, and that can tell you the thickness, whether it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 thickness of yarn. And those are some things that you can do to figure out what kind of yarn it is. And then the last thing that you can do, if you just can't figure it out, you've you know, got it wet, you've heated it up, you've smelled it, you've washed and dried it, and you still can't figure out what the yarn is, I suggest you take it to your local yarn store and ask them to take a look at it for you, because usually the people that work at your local yarn store are experts, and they can pretty much tell you what's in there just by looking at it and squeezing it, you know, pulling the fibers out and looking at it and squeezing it, you know, because there's some things like alpaca is always a little more hairy because the fibers are shorter compared to like wool, you know, and there's so many different kinds of sheep and wool, lamb that they get wool from. They're all different breeds, and so sometimes your yarn is thicker, sometimes it's thinner, sometimes it's stringier and fluffier. You know, and it's the same thing with acrylic. It just depends on how it's processed. And so those, like I said, those are just some things that you can do to try to figure out what kind of yarn it is that you have. And it's always good to know before you get started on a project, because if you make a nice hat and you love it, then you toss it in the wash machine, you pull it out and it's this big. Like, oh man, I've done it. I know. So anyway, I hope that will help you. And you know, like I said, I always do a blog along with our live video, and I try to post that blog as well. That way, if you can't remember and you don't want to watch through the whole video again, you can just click that link and it'll have all that information on the blog for you. And while you're there, put your email address in there on that side, and then all the blogs will be automatically sent to whatever email address that you want it's sent to. All right, so that's kind of our talk on yarn fibers. And so you want to know what's going on this week at Posh Pooch Designs? Well, we have a lot of things happening. Last week we had our first lesson for our Back to Crochet Basics. Next Monday is lesson 2. And we're going to be talking about single crocheting in a row. We're going to be talking about how to tie off and weave in your ends and how to keep your ends straight. And we're going to have a project just like we did for lesson 1, and I think you'll like the project. It's a fun little project, and I try to come up with projects for every video. We are going to have one for every of the lesson videos, but I try to make a project that's fun to make and also fun to either wear or use, not just okay, whatever, you know. I try to make it fun. Okay, so that's happening next Monday. We did the little collar that Rosie's wearing. Do you want to show your collar again? Come here, baby girl. Come here. There she is. This is our National Dog Day collar. I just called it Dog Day collar. And it's made out of the Chick Sheep yarn. I made the Lisa Ann cowl and ear warmer. And I had some of the yarn left, and I thought, oh, it would be so much fun to make a little collar for Dog Day. For the dogs. It's a little cow, and my dogs wear them all the time. They love having the little collars on, and I think they think if they're not wearing one, something's wrong. And it does help keep their little necks warm. It's 1 degree here in Parker, so it's pretty cold. We did that, and then yesterday we did a re-video. Remember I told you some of our videos were going to be updating the pattern and redoing the video, and that's what we did on this one. I originally had this in 2 videos. I had how to make the bunny and then how to crochet the washcloth that goes with it in 2 separate videos. And so what I did is we retested the pattern, and then we did the videos so that you can crochet the washcloth, and then it shows you also how to roll it into these cute little bunnies. And these are so cute. They are perfect for Easter. They're perfect for a baby shower or baby gift. And they're also fun to give to people that you're going to give a gift bag to that maybe has some bubble bath or some soap or some shampoo or face wash or makeup or something like that. Just use them as instead of a bow or something. But anyway, super easy to make, super fun to give. We did that yesterday. And then we have 2 new patterns we're going to be doing this week as well. This is my bubble head. Isn't she funny? I just think it's the funniest thing. I had this on this morning and I couldn't stop laughing at myself. But this was a special request, and I made it in a couple of other colors as well. Here's the purple one. I got an email and she said, I want to make a bobblehead ear warmer and I just can't get the counts right. Do you have a pattern? Well, I wrote this pattern like, I don't know, 10 years ago when I was first starting. Never ever put it out there. And it just kind of set, because I have books, you would not believe the notebooks I have, full of patterns that I have never put out there. And so I thought I'll go ahead and do this maybe Thursday or Friday, and we'll get that out there. It's a lot of fun to wear, and it's also, they're fun to make too. I don't know if you've ever done a bobble stitch, but it's a really fun stitch to do. And so we're going to have that one out. And then I also have a series of sock monkey stuff. Here's the bib that we did. And this one's going to be coming out Thursday or Friday as well. These are both, all of these will all be patterns and videos so that you can do whichever way is easiest for you. What we've been trying to do on some of the remake videos is to make a photo tutorial so that we can put that photo tutorial on the blog, because some people really prefer a photo tutorial and other people prefer a video, and some people just want to do it right off the written pattern. And so I thought I'll just try to make it so that anybody who wants to make it can make it. You know, everybody learns differently. Some people are visual learners. Some people can read it and understand it. But one thing we need to understand is pattern writing and crochet patterns are completely different than what they were, say, 50, 60 years ago, even 70 years ago. If you've ever picked up an old vintage book or pattern, say at a garage sale, I've got some that my mother-in-law gave me, and they were probably her mother's because they are really, really old. And some of the pages in them, when you turn the pages, you know, they just almost tear. They're just really delicate. And so I don't really look at them that often, but I do look at them, and my brain just says, how in the world did they ever figure out these crochet patterns? And so crochet patterns, writing them has evolved a little bit from that. It looks like all numbers and letters when you look at those old patterns. And so what I try to do with my patterns is keep it simple. And even today, I think a lot of crochet pattern writers, they try to get too intricate, and they almost give you too much information, you know. And sometimes I just want to make the pattern. I don't want to read 3 pages of instructions. That's just my take, my opinion. You know, that's just me. Everybody's different. It's basically what I was trying to say. And some people prefer written patterns. Some people like pictures because they're more of a visual learner. And some people just really prefer a video. And so I'm trying to hit all 3 of those aspects, because my thinking is the more people that crochet, the better off, because crochet can be very healing and very therapeutic. I just think of it as getting my mind off all the crazy stuff going around me and the world and everybody else, and I can just concentrate on this one thing for just a few minutes, and then I can set it down and get back to the rest of the world, you know. So anyway, that's kind of my thinking on that subject. So that's all I've got for you today. Got my coffee in this really cool cup. I wish I could tell you where she purchased this, because I don't know. But I did see some at a new little coffee shop we have in our town that were similar, but I've never seen them anywhere else except this that she gave me in that little coffee shop. So I couldn't tell you where to find one, but I bet if you Googled it, you could find them, because you can find anything on Google. Well, I want to thank you all for stopping in and watching my live video today. I hope you learned some things about yarn. Remember, it's okay to sniff your yarn, right? I always tell people, if you're feeling down, the world's feeling heavy, and you need to get out, go to Joann's or Michael's or Hobby Lobby or even Walmart, anywhere that's near that they carry yarn. Go down the yarn aisle, squeeze the yarn, sniff the yarn, and feel better. Alrighty, so I hope you have a wonderful week and a wonderful day, and we'll see you next Tuesday.